Yo, Nick, main Nick, the main Nick. I got a review for you to do or something. Nick, come on, sir. Wait, that means I'm the new Nick. Yay! Nick clones, Nick clones. Oh, it's not the real Nick. Well, that's 2 clones in a day dead. Typical. Absolutely typical. I'm going to have to have a word with the Big Finish CEO about this. Wherever he is nowadays. Gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of It Chapter 2, the sequel to It, which I bloody loved when I first saw that one. Like Deadpool, that was an experience, and I was super hyped for the sequel. But could Chapter 2 be as good as the first film? Well, like Deadpool 2, no. Because I already had the experience, it wasn't quite as as good as those two. I could probably say the same about The Conjuring 2 had I seen the first one beforehand, or at least at the cinema. Then maybe the first one or the third one, if they make one of those, might not go the same way. But I still loved It Chapter 2, considering it's the same creative team behind it, with the same young character cast. Of course, with some scenes that they didn't film, plus maybe some new scenes to fit into the story, and also some brand new other new scenes. Yeah, I already said that. Plus some brand new scenes that they needed for the story, and some at the very end where we kind of had to see them the young kids that. Just after they beating Pennywise the first time, after we see the grown-up versions kind of had a spin round. So that's really cool. And also for the photograph bits as well, that was needed as a prop. So yeah, they're back, as well as also at a fantastic new cast. They're such great casting, especially Jessica Chastain leading the charge as the adult Beverly. Yeah, she gets top billing. Maybe this is because of her, because she's the highest up actor or actress in the film, whilst in the other one, I'm not sure. I think the guy who was playing Bill was top last time, possibly. Bill in this film is played by James McAvoy, and he is absolutely brilliant. So is Chastain. In fact, they're all brilliant, and I especially love Bill Hader. And to be honest, like in the first film, Richie is the best character and possibly got the best performance by both actors, with Finn Wolfhead, I believe that is his name, or Winehead, I'm not quite sure. But he was the best of the kid actors of the first film, and I loved all of the kid actors in that film. But I think Finn Wolfhead, sorry if I get his name wrong, was probably the best there. And I think Bill Hader, as his adult version, is the best of the adults, which makes a lot of sense. Richie's possibly my favourite character. He's so fun and enjoyable. Also, I think Bill's a very strong character. I think Beverly's a great character. Ben's also really great. He's really fun. Could have had a bit more to do in this film, but he was still really good. Well, I say a bit more to do. I mean, a bit more involvement in some places. He did get some good scenes. Mike is really great in this film, and he's even got a few more, a bit more secretive here. And I think Mike as a character has stepped up from the previous installment, where he didn't do an awful amount, but he does quite a lot here, quite a lot. And also Eddie, he's really great, great character, and it's great to see his character arc, especially in his sacrifice, I suppose, his sacrifice to save Richie, and yes, it's really sad there. And the younger version is also really fun, and also we got Stanley, who doesn't have an awful lot to do in this story, in this side of the story, which is part of the main story of the book, to be honest. He commits suicide so he gets out of coming back. But it turns out at the end of the film, this was a strategic move on his part, as opposed to or alongside being an act of cowardice. And the actor who plays him does a really great job with what he's got. He definitely does the expressions fantastically. And the young Stanley is also really good. All the actors for both the older and the younger sides of the kids are absolutely fantastic. We also have a few great scenes with the young Stanley giving us a bit more character stuff, and even giving Richie a bit of a motivation. Also, Bill Skarsgård, whilst he doesn't get a huge amount of screen time as Pennywise, he does absolutely fantastic with what he does have, and the reveal of what he is at the very end. I haven't seen the original 1990 version of this, but I have seen the Nostalgia Critics review and the Honest trailer. And compared to that, that one was on a budget and was restricted by said TV budget and censorships, of course. So it couldn't do as much bloody violence or swearing, or that much horror, because it was for a TV audience. This one is these films, because of the bigger budget and no restrictions for film, as it will be shown in cinemas. Yeah, it will probably show on TV as well, but it's film. It's for a film audience. Then it's allowed to go to do a bit more, to go as much of the book as they physically can, and I think they do a fantastic job with that. And the reveal at the end is not as disappointing as, say, how the original would have done it. I need to check out the original properly, but from what I've seen of it from NSYNC and Honest trailers, and also from was it Screen Rant, who did What's the Difference, from their video as well. Both of these new versions definitely take the cake when it comes to the definitive film adaptation. I do have to say the story isn't quite perfect though, and this may be partly for the book. However, the whole splitting up stuff is apparently a new thing for the movie. And I was thinking, why are they splitting up? Shouldn't they be staying together? I mean, Beverly going to the old house stuff, that was good. That was a great scene. But the rest, I think, they could have stuck together for a bit. Or at least Mike could have gone with one of them. Some of them are quite short, and it does have a repeating pattern of the clown trying to scare them. I mean, that's why I think doing Beverly first was good. That bit was good, but then after that, it kind of got a bit repetitive and a bit annoying in places. I mean, it wasn't so bad with Bill, because we had a fun, light moment with him on the bike, and there wasn't as much of a horror scene with him in the present day stuff. Well, there was one of them, but it wasn't as much of like the other ones. It was a bit different, so that one wasn't as bad. But quite a few of them are very repetitive and very similar. The Richie one was quite fun, although quite surprising development happens with this character. I didn't notice this in the first film, but in this film, it turns out that Richie is secretly gay, which I was surprised at. I'm fine with it, but I'm surprised there wasn't really any indication that he was gay in the first film. In fact, Eddie, who he had a crush on, he actually kind of makes fun of a few times in the first film, rather than, well, maybe that's hiding it. But it was quite a bit of a surprise turnaround in this half of the story. I think there could have been a bit more hints in the first one, or if they were, then I probably didn't notice them. Well, in that case, oh well. Similarly, speaking of gay people in this story, there is a brutal hate crime against two gay young men at the very start of this film. It is from the book, it is taken from the book, but it does feel very out of place. As this film is being set in 2016. The book was set in the 50s and the 80s for when it was released. The adult when at the time of the thing coming out is when the adult stuff is set, and then 27 to 30 years earlier is when the younger set is set. The younger selves have their adventures. So 50s for the kids in the first book, and 80s for the adults in the book. 60s and 90s, or late 80s, early 90s, maybe late 50s, early 60s, as they do 30 years, as there's 27 years for the TV miniseries. And then for the films, very late 80s for chapter 1, plus the flashbacks in chapter 2, and 88 to 89, and then 2016, maybe 16 to 17 for the new book. Sorry, not a new book, the chapter 2 film. So, yeah, actually, whilst it might, well, I don't know if it would be common in 1988 or 89 or even 86 for such a brutal hate crime, but certainly in 2016 it would be out of place. It's real nasty. It's really pretty uncomfortable for this happening in 2016 in America. I mean, some countries maybe, but in America in 2016, literally a year or so after gay marriage laws were passed, and you still get the hate crime. I mean, yeah, it was from the book, but they cut out the Beverly having sex with the boys at the very end of what would have been chapter 1 film. As teenagers, I should say, teenage Beverly having sex with all of the teenage boys, and so that bit was cut. Does not appear in chapter 1, or here. So they could have not had the race crime. They could have not race crime, hate crime. They could have had something else. But I do think it was handled well in execution. Pennywise also gets to show off his teeth a bit more in this film. It was pretty scary when we got to see him his teeth in the first one, although some of the CGI was a bit dodgy towards the end. And there is some dodgy CGI throughout this film. However, what they do get right alongside the practical effects are really good. And I do like how Pennywise is pretty much eating all of the likeable kid characters who we see in the film. Like the kid, the gay boy who gets killed, gives a toy that he won to a little girl who then gets eaten. And the kid that who's a fan of Richie's stuff, and who Bill meets on the street. Apparently he's living in his own house. He gets eaten by the clowns in a really cool set piece with the Hall of Mirrors. That was actually a really tense scene. That was really tense. It was very predictable that they would die, and it probably would have been even cooler if Bill had come to the boys' rescue. But still really suspenseful and really entertaining. And yeah, and despite some overlong, repetitive stuff in the middle with the gang going around looking for their items, and some of them make sense, but some of them don't quite make sense. And in fact, Pennywise even gives Bill his item. So whoopsies. And it turns out the ritual doesn't really work anyway. Or at least not to begin with. So it does feel like a bit of a waste of time. This is nearly 3 hours. This is 2 hours and 50 minutes, maybe 48. So yeah, it's a long film. It's even longer than the first one, including the deleted scenes from that film that they did rumour to be on an extended cut, but I don't know. Though if that's ever going to happen. So yeah, this is quite a lengthy film, and I think they could have cut it down a little bit. I think they could have made it to 2 3/4 hours, or maybe 2 hours 40, maybe even 2.5. But we still get it's a really good film, and I wasn't bored. I was happy. I was enjoying myself. The climax is also really fun, really engaging, and it's got some great cinematography and editing, and yeah, it's really great. And like I said, the reveal is pretty good here, considering Stephen King's usually has disappointing endings or reveals or outcomes, but here I think it works fine. I think it's really good, and Bill Skarsgård gets to show off some more acting chops. And some really great stuff with the kids when they're trying to escape him. Although there is a bit where Beverly's locked in a locked toilet cubicle scenario, and people are smashing against the door, shouting stuff at her. And at one point, one of the characters, I'm not sure which one it was, but someone pushes in and says, "Hey, it's Johnny!" Getting a reference to The Shining. I don't know whether this was because it's a Stephen King thing or it's because it was a pop culture reference to what they would know in the 80s. Or both. They also have a reference to Die Hard at one point, shortly, not too long afterwards. Of course, in the previous film, we saw the cinema thing have titles for the films. I think Lethal Weapon 2 and Batman were in the first film, and then in this film we've got Nightmare on Elm Street 5. Was that a 1988, 89, 90 film? Could have been. And yeah, but on the whole, the film is really well made. It's spectacularly shot and edited. It works really well. Could have been cut down a little bit, and some of the splitting up could have been merged together. I think the chemistry between the actors is great, but with the characters, could have been better, especially considering they forget everything after they leave, or forget quite a lot of the stuff, and it does kind of the chemistry could have worked a little bit better to start with, although they do get on really well later on down the line. I think in the miniseries, from what I remember, they remember some bits, but it's not completely clear, and then maybe they get all their memories back by the end. But here, everyone but Mike forgets, and maybe Stanley sort of remembers, and then strategically removes himself from the game. But still, they all have chemistry. It just takes a bit of time to get there. And like I said, there was some dodgy CG throughout. So a few problems, a few nitpicks, and a few issues. A problem with the length, although I didn't find it as much of a problem as other people. Same with Avengers Endgame. I was just enjoying myself quite a lot. I actually had more of a problem with Blade Runner 2049's runtime, and pretty much very few other people seem to have a problem with that. At least this film didn't have scenes of just someone walking around doing nothing but walking around for 5 minutes before something else happened. So it's Chapter 2. I think it was a great film, and I think it's a really enjoyable and well-crafted horror film. I still think the first one is better. It's stronger. The characters and cast are more in sync with their chemistry, but I do think what we get here is brilliant, and the casting is amazing, and their chemistry together is also great. But also the characters' chemistry could have been a little bit stronger here, and I think that's something that they got really well with the first film. Plus the fact that the first film, the kids were all amazing, whilst the actors you would expect to be good, the kids, it's a little, you have less expectations from because they're kids. So when they do fantastically, it's a nice surprise. That's something I commend the kid actors for in both films. Whilst the adult actors, you expect them to be good, or at least they expect them to be great. And whilst they're fantastic. The kids, it was even more of a joy to watch them on screen because they were so great. Overall, it Chapter 2, great film. Not as good as the first film, but certainly a good, really great follow-up. Could have been a little bit better, but still brilliant. So I'm going to be giving it Chapter 2. Usually with a film like this, I should give it an 8 out of 10. But on this occasion, I will be giving it Chapter 2 a 9 out of 10. Yeah, some of the problems that some people have, I can see, but I don't have a huge amount of issue with as much as everybody else. Maybe it's a nitpick. But yeah, I enjoy Chapter 2. It's not as good as the first film. And yeah, disappointingly not as great. But I still think it was good. I still think it was very good. I think it was a great film, and whilst it didn't 100% live up to expectations, it was certainly very close. I certainly think it was a fantastic film. Not as good as the first. Actually, no. I certainly think it was a brilliant film. I still think the first one, as I said, is better. I think that's fantastic. An experience, a game changer. That one was I think that got third place on my overall 2017 films ranking. I think that was third. I just loved it so much. This film, not quite as much, but I still found it brilliant. It won't be in my top 3 of the year, maybe not even top 5, but it will definitely be, well, it's a contender for top 10. And it's definitely a worthy one to check out. If you like the first one, check out this one. I mean, some people may not like it, but you won't know until you try it. And that's the same with me with the original. But compared to what I have seen of the original version, I prefer seeing each of these characters go off and do their own thing for a couple of minutes and have a sort of a repetitive formula than characters just saying some really bad lines and some really stupid stuff, like in the original. Why is it so mean? Yeah, that's something to check out at a later date. But yeah, but that's it from me. Thank you for watching. I will be reviewing reviews that I've seen at the cinema before 2015 as well, because why not? So to start that off, I'll be reviewing a film that I saw at the cinema in 2010, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, the penultimate film of the Harry Potter series. So that's next, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne YouTube channel. But it turns out late at the very end, this was a strategic. Or even that much horror without because it was for a TV audience. I think in the miniseries, from what I saw clips of, they partially remember having, but yeah, here it's, but from what I've seen with the original, I prefer both these two installments. But compared to what I've seen with the original version, I prefer seeing Beverly talking to an old lady about Derry. Hang on. I'll see you guys next time. The next review on the main channel will be... I'll be taking a look at... I also will be... It's Chapter 2, Sketch. I don't know if you can see it from there. Right, now it's too close. Sorry, people. Sorry, everyone. Right, take 2. Action. Actually, it should be this way around, shouldn't it? Action. If it needs adjusting, I can adjust it. Action. Right, action. It needs to go a bit further out. Sorry, everyone. Action. 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 Action.